All right, so fantasy races are an allegory for real life phenotypes of people, different aspects of humanity which manifest themselves physically and socially within different groups of people. And now, we could easily take this in a really racist direction, right? And a lot of people do. They say, oh, the goblins are these group of people. And I think you can guess which group. And they say, oh, the orcs are this race of people, right? And I think you can guess which race they say is the orcs. And the same thing with the elves, like the elves would always be like, sophisticated, rich white people or something. And then the regular humans would just be regular humans, But then it's like, well, what are the halflings and what are the hobbits and gnomes and stuff. Um, but I don't want to fixate too much on like race for this video. I think everyone can guess like what each fantasy race is analogous to in like your Lord of the Rings or Elder Scrolls or Dungeons and Dragons or whatever. Everyone can have their speculations about that, and I might touch on it a little bit, but my thing is that it's more of a mindset and a phenotype and a cultural thing than anything else. Because I think we all know, like, at least, or can think of at least like one white dude that acted like an orc. I don't think it's always like inherently exclusive to one race or the other. And there's maybe some positive qualities of the orc in fantasy games like the Elder Scrolls. Um, the orcs are always like super tough and hardy, and they've got like a lot of stamina and strength. Right? They can outlast everyone. Whereas like a wood elf is super agile, and maybe the wood elf has like a little bit of magical qualities, but generally it's more like the high elves and the dark elves that are involved in like a lot of magic. Like even in Lord of the Rings, it was kind of like this. You had the more high elven type, which was more magical, and then you had the wood elf type, which was like your kind of Legolas archer type of guy, or like the Link from Zelda. You know what I mean? Like you got different phenotypes, you got different types of elves, even within that one race, and so it's true in my opinion that these races are somehow analogous to different different groups and cultures. But what can we actually like take away from that in like a useful way, other than like all the obvious racism memes about goblins and orcs that you can think of that would pop up from this line of thinking. In my opinion, with all this like on this channel, I like to talk about like esotericism maxing and just high IQ strategies to like boost your quality of life. That's kind of like the goal anyway. I may or may not be successful at that, but that's the goal. Like with the dirtbag maxing thing, the ultimate goal is for the viewer to be somehow enriched with some kind of takeaway. But the truth is, and I always reiterate this, that like if you're a certain kind of person, you maybe were not meant to be you maybe were not meant to be just like a laborer. Maybe your mind is too sharp and your body is too fragile. Maybe you're more of an elf maxer. Maybe you need to be on that elf grind, getting your intelligence stat up, reading some books, learning esoteric knowledge. You know how there's all those memes about the IQ bell curve and how it's like on the one end you have really stupid people, and then on the middle you have like the middle wits that often just kind of like overthink everything. But then on the high end you've got the truly high IQ individuals that are out here doing it, making it happen, changing the world and coming up with unique thoughts, true insight or whatever. And that should be the goal here, because there are so many pitfalls and traps. I think for the average dude, like most dudes on YouTube, you get spammed with either pure slop content, or you get spammed with the sort of the red pill manosphere self-improvement rabbit hole that, in my opinion, can be equally slop. Do you really need to focus any amount of your time learning how to cold approach and learn pickup artist tactics? Like, how does this make you a better person when you could be instead doing something that you love and getting really good at a skill, becoming competent, growing your friend circle, your social circle from your sort of core competency, and branching out from there, and perhaps you'll meet your significant other. But like, should you really spend a lot of time going to the mall and cold approaching girls? In my opinion, no. Maybe if you want to be that like charisma, the charisma maxed build, if that's what you want to go for, then sure. And that is a strong build. I'm not arguing against that, but like, every, you play Elder Scrolls or something. Every race, it's no secret that like, if you're gonna play as a warrior, you probably want to go as like a Nord or or an orc or whatever. What's another good race for like a troll or something? I don't know. Something that is built for that kind of way of thinking, But if you're doing more of an intelligence build, you don't necessarily want to pick an orc. You probably want to pick an elf or a human or something, or a gnome. And my point is that we don't necessarily get to pick what build we spawn in with, because that's just the genetic lottery. But if you spawn in with this build, you're more likely to find your way here if you're a certain kind of person in the first place, which in my mind means you probably don't need to do anything that's against your build. Far be it from me to tell anyone what to do with their life, but like there's a certain biological determinism here that needs to be taken into account. There's a certain amount of realism, and if you weren't blessed with the physiognomy to become a linebacker on the football team, maybe you should just pick a different sport, or at least a different position, So that's kind of the takeaway that I have from like the fantasy races. Obviously they have more literature related takeaways and more lore related things and whatnot, and you could potentially expand on this for forever and ever, because fantasy and lore and all that stuff gets pretty deep. But I would just say to most people, what you want to do is you kind of want to like figure out what you're capable of and figure out what is possible for you, and then find the overlap between that and what you're interested in the first place. And then that's probably your answer. Because I know with my build, as much as I'm not really even interested in football, but like, even if I was interested in football, as hard as I may try, I'm probably never going to be, one of those 250-pound dudes, whatever the position that is just basically sitting there and like hitting people. I don't know enough about football. I don't even know why I use football as an example for this, because that's how little I know about football. but you get the point. If it ain't in your build, it ain't in your build. So that's the thesis here. Find your build and what's possible and max out on it. And don't necessarily take away all these these manosphere things like, oh, you all need to be this one kind of person. You need to cold approach girls. You need to get a job in sales. And you need to be Mr. Charisma and talk to everyone. And that's how you become an alpha male and win at life. But no, that is not how everyone wins at life. It's just not. I'm not saying it's not possible for you just because you don't have it. It's just you're kind of swimming upstream. You're making things harder for yourself than they need to be. And maybe you can do it, and there's something to be said about pushing through it. But imagine if you actually found something that is within your aptitudes and your interests to do, and you put an equal amount of effort into that. You would almost certainly go much farther. But yeah, so that's my idea here. That's my point. You guys let me know if I'm full of shit or if you have any opinions on this. Till next time.